Chapter 128 The Light of the Seagod's Pavillion. The Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy's illustrious Virtue Hall. This was a spacious great hall, and every decoration was starred with metal, and were mainly pale gold in color. The ornaments weren't extravagant, but they were full of tactile qualities. A horizontal inscribed board hung from the top of the great hall's entrance, and the enormous pale gold characters had an intimidating feeling about them. Illustrious Virtue Hall. Stand up. There was a person sitting in a chair in the center of the great hall's inner regions. He looked not more than 40 years of age, and he wasn't tall, yet he was robust. A simpler way of explaining his appearance would be that he was short and plump. Long hair wasn't suitable for a person with a short and plump build, but he had a flowing lock of long reddish brown hair that draped behind his head, and this made his short and thick neck even more obscure. There was a person prostrate on the ground, and he stood up at this moment as if he had just received great amnesty. Please punish me, Hallmaster. I failed to lead the team to success. This person's appearance became apparent once he stood up. It was the teacher that had led the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy students into the finals. However, his face was overcome with a haze of terror, and it appeared as if he was as frightened as he could possibly be. The short and plump middle-aged man was actually the illustrious Virtue Hall's famous Hallmaster, and that meant he was also Xiao Hingchen and Meng Hingchen's grandfather. One wouldn't be able to tell his age purely from his appearance. You didn't do anything wrong. There were many coincidences and unforeseen circumstances that you could control. Furthermore, you and your students' takeaways have been relatively fruitful even though a few people perished. As for the Judgment Sword, I will personally visit Shrek Academy, as we can't let it end up in their hands. The grand competition's results actually turned out to be disappointing, but I cannot be bothered with defeating Shrek Academy when they are having some internal issues. The Hallmaster's magnanimity and mercy took the teacher in charge by surprise, as the Hallmaster's temper wasn't so mellow if memory served. He raised his head and stole a glimpse, and he realized that there was a faint smile on the Hallmaster's pudgy face, as if he wasn't furious at all. Thank you, Hallmaster. Only then did the teacher in charge dare to heave a sigh of relief. The Hallmaster's mood seemed to be on cloud 9. Do you know which of your harvests I'm most satisfied with? The teacher in charge tested the waters and said, is it because of the 100,000-year soul beast embryo? The Hallmaster shook his head and answered, no, that may be part of the harvest, but we have also given up large amounts of wealth, so there can only be said to be a fair exchange. Of course, the embryo in our hands is different from the embryo ending up in other people's hands, but it has also brought much trouble to us. There have already been 3 batches of people who have attempted to steal it from the illustrious Virtue Hall, and this exemplifies the crime of treasuring a cherished item. Furthermore, there's still the God Sealing Avatar. The God Sealing Avatar isn't worth much amongst the other Class 9 soul tools, but it can only be forged by Class 9 soul engineers. I do want to know which Class 9 soul engineer from the Sun Moon Empire sold this supreme treasure to the Douluo Empire instead of handing it over to the illustrious Virtue Hall. A hostile glare flickered in the Hallmaster's eyes as he spoke that last sentence, and this terrified the teacher in charge so much that he got down on his knees once more. Continue guessing. The Hallmaster went on with a plain voice. The beads of sweat were breaking out on the teacher in charge's head. Can it be the information we have obtained regarding Shrek Academy students? The Hallmaster answered, that can be considered a part of it. 3 twin martial souls. Shrek Academy is truly extraordinary, and they also have an ultimate martial soul. Shrek Academy has already agreed to an exchange between our respective students, but the news from yesterday stated that the exchange will have to be pushed back due to some internal reasons in the academy. They will decide the exact postponement after their investigation. It seems like they're afraid of us making a move on their students. Still, I have to admit that Shrek Academy is the best in the entire continent at attracting talents and soul masters. It's a pity. However, this still isn't the greatest takeaway from your expedition. The teacher in charge was a little lost as he gazed at the Hallmaster with perplexed eyes. The Hallmaster gradually stood up. He wasn't even 1.5 meters tall, but his girth was definitely over 1.5 meters. He placed his hands behind his back, and there was a flowing black robe embroidered with golden patterns covering his bulbous tummy. He sauntered before the teacher in charge as he suddenly raised his leg and sent him tumbling with a kick. The only reason why I'm not going to kill you is because you have let Meng Hingchen and Xiao Hingchen realize the danger and urgency from this competition, and they now know it's time to focus and buck up. They took the initiative and requested to go into closed-door cultivation when they came back, and that is the greatest takeaway from your expedition. Get lost, and don't let me see you in the near future. If not, I will remember all the children who have passed away, and I will send you to the grave to accompany them. Yes. The teacher in charge was elated instead of feeling angry, as he knew he was going to live. He didn't even bother getting up, and just crawled out of the room. The Hallmaster's brows creased as he watched him crawl away. The touty Douluo was personally at Douluo City to hold down the fort. Fine. We shall meet again during the next Continental Advanced Spellmaster Academy Soul Dueling Tournament 5 years later, and we shall see if the touty can hold back this toad. Humph. He turned around and walked towards the back of the hall. He strolled through the main hall and stopped before a metal statue by a certain spot in the wall. A sphere of light flashed before his chest, and a peculiar golden rune was printed onto the wall before him, as if it had just flown out from inside his chest. The entire wall seemed to come alive in the next instant, as it split open into 2 sides, while gears and machinery crackled within. There were several faint ripples of frightening energy that flickered when the wall first opened up, but the Hallmaster was undeterred and unmoving from beginning to end. He stepped into the crack, and the wall closed behind him. The Hallmaster arrived in a silent room without any windows at all after 10 minutes. Everything inside this room was also made of metal. The ceiling, the floor, and the walls were all filled with metal sculptures. A soul engineer would be able to tell that these metal sculptures had a similar functionality as formation arrays, but they were extremely sophisticated and emanated a magnificent and elegant feeling. There was a squarish metal pillar erected in the center of the room. The metal pillar was about 1.5 meters tall, and there was an object placed on top. It was a wooden base, and there were several hundred jewels of a myriad of colors inlaid on its surface. A sphere of air undulated faintly above this wooden base. This sphere of air was white. The tender white hues resembled streams of air, and there appeared to be several shapes glimmering faintly within, yet it was hard to perceive its profundity or arcane might simply by looking at it. This sphere of air was condensed, and seemed to surge left and right, as it were trying to break out of some barrier. The wooden base beneath it constantly released a barrier of pale golden light that enveloped the sphere within throughout the entire struggle, rendering it unable to break free. Yes, this wooden base was the Starlight Auction's final item up that was up for bidding, the God Sealing Altar, and the item sealed inside was the 100,000-year soul beast embryo. The Hallmaster squinted his eyes as he stood before the God Sealing Altar. He actually directly spoke to the 100,000-year soul beast embryo that was sealed inside the God Sealing Avatar. I can feel your immense power. I have affirmed by speculation through various experiments that you're not a typical 100,000-year soul beast. Anybody that tries to absorb you and assimilate you into a soul ring or a soul bone after obtaining you will definitely die a painful death. I can sense that even a powerful title Douluo will find it extremely difficult to absorb your strength, and it might even lead to a toxic backlash. Am I right? The white air sphere grew quiet, as if it were listening intently to the Hallmaster's voice. A small human figure shimmered within the pale white mist, much like a human infant. Therefore, I believe my guess is correct. The Hallmaster chuckled and said, I am extremely clear about the Starlight Auction's background. They belong to the Douluo Empire's royal family. Their intentions in putting you up for auction were meant to cause some trouble for me, and for me to wonder, who forged this God-sealing altar? They wanted to use the fact that a person's treasure will arouse the envy of others to instigate powerful beings from across the continent to attack the illustrious Virtue Hall. So what? Let them come. This is a test for the illustrious Virtue Hall's defense mechanisms, and the illustrious Virtue Hall's disciples cannot live a life this smooth, can they? It's a pity, because Douluo City has made a grave mistake, and that is the fact that they hadn't discovered your true power. That means I will have the last laugh. You're not some typical 100,000-year soul beast, but a soul beast with at least 199,999 years of cultivation, except you haven't been able to break the bottleneck. Am I right? This shouldn't be the first time you're attempting the soul beast's bottleneck, except you weren't successful in the end. I'm curious about something. According to what we humans know about you guys, soul beasts only have one chance to cultivate into human form after the 100,000-year mark. However, how is it that you haven't broken through the capstone, yet you are still able to do this? I am very curious about this. Don't worry, though. We will make the best use of you here. I will study you meticulously, and I will extract every single ounce of energy from you. you, so that your almost 200,000 years of cultivation will not be wasted. This is wonderful. Maybe I can even lend you a hand and help your overall strength break through that bottleneck, so that you will become a transcendent soul beast before I strip your power from you. It may be difficult for normal soul masters to absorb your power, but it's not that much of a challenge for me. It's a pity, because I already have 9 soul rings, and I can only extract your power to bestow upon my prodigious grandson. Everybody will be in the same family in the end. The whole master's eyes were tender, as if he was speaking to his own child, and there was even a tinge of benevolence within his voice. SSSSS. The white mist abruptly crashed violently against the god ceiling altar's golden light barrier, as if a whale had suddenly appeared in the Hallmaster's consciousness. The Hallmaster continued to grin as he said, "You should count yourself lucky, as there are hardly any treasures that are worthy of my emphasis and my cherishment. Do you know what a person's greatest agony is when he or she has reached the pinnacle? It's the lack of happiness. I can feel this blissful sensation from you, and I believe this blissfulness will be with me for quite a long time." At Shrek Academy's main gate, it was almost midday, and it was still lesson time. Shrek Academy's main gate felt extremely tranquil today as the myriad of vendors and merchants that would gather here on typical days were all absent. There were 5 people standing before the enormous gateway. The person standing in front was Shrek Academy's Martial Soul Department's Dean, Yan Shaosh, and the Soul Tool Department's Dean, Xiao Liner. The 3 people behind them were the Martial Soul Department's Vice Dean, Kai Maya, the Soul Tool Department's Vice Dean, Chen Juo, and the Soul Tool Department's core teacher, Fan U, who was also Huo Yuao's mentor. The 4 deans were all present along with Fan U, who was almost set to become the Soul Tool Department's next Vice Dean. This group was substantial and monumental, but they were not accompanied by other teachers. Their heads were slightly tilted as they glanced towards the far end of the horizon, and everyone was standing silently in wait. Several figures that looked like tiny black dots gradually drifted into view one after another in the skies in the distance, and descended from the sky as the 5 of them looked on. "They have returned." A faint smile broke out on Yan Shaosh's face. Shen Liner took a step forward and muttered, "They're finally back." Her eyes flowed with obvious excitement and exhilaration, and it was a wonder she wasn't trying to oppose Yan Shaosh at every available opportunity like normal. Yes, the 5 of them were here to welcome the return of Shrek Academy's heroes. Several figures flitted onto the ground. The first person that came into view was the slovenly dressed Elder Sun, and he waved his large hand, and the others descending behind him caught the 2 stretchers in the sky. Shu Sanchi was still unconscious on the stretcher, but Jiang Nanan was wide awake. She was so thrilled when she saw the words Shrek Academy across the enormous gate that tears of excitement flooded from her eyes. Even though they hadn't even been gone for 2 months, they had experienced and gone through far too much over these 2 months. Bei Bei and Dai Yuheng caught Shu Sanchi's stretcher, while Huo Yuao and Wang Dong were responsible for Jiang Nanan's stretcher. Everybody's eyes sparkled with excitement, and the younger ones all began to tear up. They had been through so much suffering, but they managed to defend Shrek's honor and glory. They were finally home, and they were finally standing before the main gate that they were so familiar with. "Welcome home, children." Yan Shaosh and the others strode forward and welcomed them with open arms. All 5 of them paid their respects to Elder Sun as they spoke before they arrived before Shrek Academy's marvelous students. Yan Shaosh and Kai Mai managed to suppress their emotions, but Fanu couldn't control himself, and lunged forward as he pulled Huo Yuao and Hikeitu over. He scrutinized his 2 dear disciples, and only heaved a sigh of relief after he was sure that they were in one piece. Hikeitu swallowed and said, "I didn't embarrass you, master. I didn't embarrass Shrek." Fanu glanced at him, and then at Huo Yuao beside him, whose face was flowing with tears, and he grabbed the both of them into a bear hug as he said, "Silly child, I am not afraid of you guys disappointing me. All I wish for is that everyone returns home safely. This period of time was way too torturous and agonizing for Fanu. He wasn't even supposed to be here, as he was not yet the Soul Tool Department's Vice Dean. Fanu hadn't enjoyed a single day of peace ever since the main team members had returned with heinous injuries, and his heart began to beat out of his chest when Elder Mu decided to let Shrek Academy continue on in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament with an incomplete team. He was extremely aware that the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament wasn't an entirely safe competition, and participants died almost time. He only had 2 direct disciples. Fanu and Joyi didn't have their own children, and he had long treated Hikeitu and Huo Yuao as his own children. There were several times when he wanted to venture into Douluo City, but was stopped by Chen Juo. How could Fanu not be elated, now that his prized disciples had returned home? This hardened man couldn't help it, and tears cascaded down his cheeks in an instant. The 4 deans shook hands with the group before they personally led them all back into the academy. A small boat was already waiting on the Seagod's Lake's shore. Everybody exchanged looks with one another as they turned towards the deans with astonished looks on their faces. Yan Shaosh smiled and said, "You have sacrificed so much for the academy. You continued on in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament with an incomplete team, and eventually brought home the championship. This record will forever be etched into Shrek Academy's history, and the conference held within the Seagod's Pavillion has decided that everyone shall be rewarded. On the Seagod's Island, inside the Seagod's Pavillion." Neither Huo Yuan or Wang Dong knew what the Seagod's Pavillion was about, but Dai Yuheng and Ling Luoken were aware, and they instantly reacted with intense shock. The Seagod's Pavillion was Shrek Academy's cardinal location for official businesses and meetings, and it was also Shrek Academy's actual treasury. Shrek Academy's top secrets were all kept there, and nobody was allowed to enter besides the Seagod's Pavilion's elders and the 4 deans under normal circumstances. The opportunity to enter the Seagod's Pavillion was an incredible honor. Both Dai Yuheng and Ling Luoken had never heard of any student who had been allowed to go inside, and this was the case even for their seniors that participated in the previous Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament and eventually took home the crown. Everybody got onto the boat, and Yan Shaosh personally checked Shu Sanchi's health. He immediately passed on an order for both Shu Sanchi and Jiang Nanan to remain on Seagod's Island for treatment and recovery. Huo Yuan knew that the Seagod's Pavilion existed, but he didn't really know anything much about it. He was anxious and excited when he was told that he was about to set foot on the island. Seagod's Island had something that was touted as the most impressive cradle for soul masters across the entire continent, Shrek Academy's inner courtyard. The fact that Huo Yuao, Wang Dong and Xia Xiao were able to visit the island at such a young age was enough to excite them. The Seagod's Lake surface area was immense, and it was far larger than the rest of Shrek Academy added together. The boat pierced through the layers of mist, and the shape of an island gradually drifted into view after about 15 minutes. The Seagod's Island only appeared to be roughly 2 square kilometers, and its surface wasn't flat and smooth at all. Instead, it seemed like a small mountain, with all kinds of buildings constructed upon it. The structures that were usually obscured behind the layers of dense mist finally appeared right before their eyes, and the excitement in their eyes grew ever more radiant. Even though everything was unfamiliar and novel, these things were still the stuff of legends to them. Yan Shaosh didn't let someone take Shu Sanchi away to rest yet. Instead, he took them all and stepped along a narrow stone path towards the Seagod's Island's inner regions. Seagod's Island was extremely quiet, almost as if it were uninhabited. Everything just seemed too tranquil and serene, and the entire place felt like Shangri-La. The various pavilions and structures that were hidden within a myriad of tall and endless vegetation appeared graceful and elegant. This was Huo Yuao's first time here, but he fell in love with it at first sight. The vegetation here had more than a few thousand years of history, and some trees were even 100 meters tall. The air along the trail was fresh, and all that vegetation blocked everyone's vision. There was a mysterious and enigmatic feeling as they sauntered along the footpath, as if they were just inside the mountain. It didn't take long for them to reach a position near the mountain summit, and a single pavilion immediately appeared before everyone's eyes. This was a 3-story building, and the entire structure was grey and made of wood. It appeared simple and unadorned, yet there were tinges of vicissitudes upon it. One would realize upon closer inspection that there was a layer of grease-like light on the structure's wooden body. The 3-story building was about 10 meters tall, and it didn't feel grand or magnificent at all. However, a black horizontal inscribed board hung from the top of the first level's entrance, and 3 radiant golden words announced the building's identity: Seagod's Pavilion. Everybody developed a solemn and respectful feeling as they saw these 3 words. Judging by the distance, the Seagod's Pavilion was not only close to the mountain summit, but was also near the island center. Yan Shaosh stopped before the Seagod's Pavilion's entrance and turned towards the Shrek team members with a faint smile on his face. "I didn't let Shu Sanchi and Jiang Nanan rest because I wanted them to have the experience of stepping into the Seagod's Pavilion." He turned back towards the Seagod's Pavilion after explaining himself, and he bowed respectfully and said, "They're back, teacher." Everybody was taken aback when they heard teacher. Both Dai Yuheng's and Ling Luoken's faces were stricken with shock, even though they were disciples from the inner courtyard. Yan Shaosh was the Martial Soul Department's dean, and his status was already extremely high in the minds of the inner courtyard's disciples. Even Elder Sun wasn't as important to them as Yan Shaosh due to the differences in their responsibilities. Never once did they expect that Yan Shaosh's that Yan Xiaoxi's teacher was still alive. Come in, everyone. An old voice rang out, and a scene that astonished everyone appeared before their eyes. The three-story Seagod's pavilion that was just as unassuming as it could be suddenly brightened without warning right before them. Radiant beams of golden light glowed, and the entire pavilion became golden, as if it were a building made entirely from pure gold. The thick but tender golden light drifted down and enveloped everyone within. The warm and dense light aura nourished everyone's bodies, and all the exhaustion that they had brought back from their long road home was swept away in an instant. Shu Sanchi was still in a deep sleep, but his body quivered and gradually came to. Wang Dong's experience was the deepest. His body emanated transparent golden hues that interacted with this sudden burst of golden light, and his left arm was even completely golden in color as it sparkled radiantly. That pure golden luster was extremely bright and vivid, and it felt as if colors were flowing out from it. The Shrek team members and even Wang Yan subconsciously shut their eyes as they were bathed within the golden light. The four deans, Fanu and Elderson, quietly stepped into the Seagod's pavilion. They weren't affected by the Seagod's pavilion's sudden outburst of light. The expression in Bei's eyes was a little peculiar as he released the soul power in his body. The bluish-purple lightning radiance disappeared, and faint dragon roars could be heard from within the flickering golden lights. Everybody who closed their eyes had different sensations. Huo Yuao's reaction wasn't as great as Wang Dong's, but the astonishment he experienced was extremely intense as well. The vitality of heaven and earth in the air became a lot denser, and the three powerful beings that were slumbering within his body awakened at the same time. These three powerful beings didn't unleash their respective auras, and neither did they attempt to interact with Huo Yuao. Only Electrolux subtly passed Huo Yuao a thought, telling him that the person who possessed this light aura was exceptionally formidable, and was almost at his level of cultivation when he was still alive. The Ice Empress, Sky Dream, and he had to hide themselves completely, as they ran the risk of being discovered by the owner of this light energy even though they were inside Huo Yuao's body. Could he be more powerful than Elderson? Huo Yuao felt the muscles in his heart tighten. His original perception was that Elderson and the several deans were supremely powerful beings. It appeared, however, that the academy's strength didn't stop there. This was Yan Xiaoxi's mentor. However, these thoughts in his mind dissipated after a while, and he entered a meditative state while standing inside the dense and thick light aura. He channeled the mysterious heaven technique, and he could clearly feel his cultivation rising linearly with every circulation. His body's endurance had become a lot more powerful after the life gold's regulation and harmonization, and his life energy had also become much more bountiful. Even his eye of life started to itch as he soaked himself within the dense light aura. It was subconsciously absorbing the life energy in the air. The mysterious heaven technique soul power circulated smoothly, and the dense vitality in the air seemed to flow directly into his soul. Huo Yuao's soul power was originally at around rank 28, but he was already close to breaking through to rank 29 after these few moments. It felt as if only a minute had passed, yet it also felt like a century. The warm and radiant aura gradually vanished, and everybody woke up from their strange sensations and experiences one after another. The first to recover was Dalu, as his cultivation was the highest, and there was an exhilarated look on his face. His soul power improved at a sluggish pace at his current rank, and even raising it by one level was extremely challenging. However, he had felt improvements in his soul power after these few moments, and what was more substantial was that he felt like his soul power had been completely rinsed, and was now purer. This was relatively more important than increasing his cultivation directly. The reason why Huo Yuao didn't have this sensation was because his soul power had already undergone several similar experiences. The life gold's cleansing and nourishment was only the most prominent episode. Therefore, the light energy's effect on his body was just a pure boost to his soul power. Ling Luokan, Bei and the others gradually came to after Dalu. Shu Sanchi's face looked a lot better after he woke up, as if he had just replenished all the vitality that he had lost. He gazed at the three-story building before him with perplexed eyes as the golden hues gently receded, and he muttered under his breath, "Where am I?" Jiang Nanan had recovered a little from her injuries since the beginning, and that recovery process had been sped up with this golden light. She got off her stretcher voluntarily and whispered a few sentences in Shu Sanchi's ear to explain the situation. Shu Sanchi looked at her with a dazed look. "Are you all right, Nanan?" Jiang Nanan shook her head softly, and the expression on her face was a little complicated. "Let's go. Let's just go inside before anything else," Bei said as he carried Shu Sanchi's stretcher. Huo Yuao had already awoken at this point. He realized, to his pleasant surprise, that his soul power had broken through rank 29 just like that, and it didn't feel like a long time had passed when he glanced up at the sky. What kind of power was this? The light aura contained dense volumes of life energy. Could this be achieved by soul masters? Wang Dong was the last to wake up. Huo Yuao could tell from the look on his face that it was needless to say that he had also benefited greatly from this experience. The golden luster on his left arm was still sparkling, and wasn't receding quickly. They stepped into the Seagod's pavilion in single file after everybody woke up. They had just been baptized by light, and this tiny three-story building suddenly became incredibly majestic in their eyes. They walked inside with feelings as if they were undergoing a pilgrimage. They stepped into the Seagod's pavilion's first level. Everything was just so plain and austere, and every single piece of furniture or decoration seemed to be made from this strange wood, just like the Seagod's pavilion itself. There was a long table in the center of the great hall. The four deans and Elderson were sitting by the table, while Fan, who stood behind Shen Liner and Chen Duo, it was clear that they didn't have the status to sit down at this table. There were several other elders sitting on either side of the table. Huo Yuao didn't recognize most of them, and only the inner courtyard's Daiyuheng and Ling Lurkin could recognize some of them. Huo Yuao and the others stood before the table and couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Yet, they were also a little excited. This was the Seagod's pavilion, and the elderly people sitting before them were the most powerful existences in the academy. This overwhelming feeling and astonishment was amplified when they realized that the four deans were sitting beside the last seat. Yan Xiaoxi smiled and said, "Welcome back, children. Whether or not you've heard this before, I will explain it to everyone again. The Seagod's Pavilion is the supreme place for official business and meetings, and conferences held within the Seagod's Pavilion will determine the academy's future direction and path. Everyone here, besides the four deans, are elders from the academy, and they have each contributed greatly to the academy. You represented the academy and emerged as champions in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament with an incomplete team. We have heard of the entire process. Giving everyone the opportunity to come here is the academy's way of showing our gratitude and rewarding you guys. We hope that you will continue to work hard and not be overcome with pride by what you have achieved." Everybody immediately bowed respectfully toward the elders sitting around the table. They were slightly surprised that Yan Xiaoxi didn't introduce the elders to them. This wasn't because Yan Xiaoxi had forgotten. This was the Seagod's Pavilion's rule, and giving Huo Yuao and the others the permission to come in was already an exception. Everything inside the Seagod's Pavilion could be said to contain Shrek Academy's core secrets, and anybody that wasn't part of the Seagod's Pavilion wasn't allowed to know. "I will announce the rewards," Yan Xiaoxi said with a deep voice. "Daiyuheng, Ling Luokan, here." Daiyuheng and Ling Luokan bowed respectfully. Yan Xiaoxi continued, "Both of you are inner courtyard disciples along with Ma Xiaodao, and you guys weren't able to protect your comrades while executing your surveillance task. Your teammates were severely wounded as a result, and this affected our participation in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament. That's a grave mistake. Hey!" Daiyuheng and Ling Luokan hadn't seen this coming at all, and both of them turned pale with fright. Yan Xiaoxi's face turned black as he continued. "What? You wish to dispute that? Ma Xiaotao and Daiyuheng were the team's main assault-type soul masters. What are assault-type soul masters supposed to do? They have to push forward in the face of danger and protect their teammates. Did you guys done that? Ling Luokan, you are the team's main control-type soul master, but have you been pulling your weight in controlling battles? If not for Huo Yuao's spiritual detection that gave you a timely reminder, you wouldn't even have been able to come back in one piece. No, I can tell from the situation during that time that your comrades were hurt because of your complacency, and because you underestimated the enemy. You are Shrek Academy's inner courtyard disciples, and was that the battle prowess that you should have displayed? Even the outer courtyard students know the principle that you have to give your best even if you're stronger. But what about you guys?" Daiyuheng and Ling Luokan lowered their heads from Yan Xiaoxi's chiding. They didn't dare to retort against his intimidating speech, and it didn't help that the dean was speaking the truth. Yan Xiaoxi's voice became a little more amiable. "You guys followed the team to participate in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament afterwards. You managed to exercise enough fighting strength due to the sufficient time given by the reserve team's exemplary performance for you to recover and tend your wounds, and ultimately helped the team to win the championship. The academy is well aware of this achievement. However, you are inner courtyard disciples, and you are also part of the official main team, so you guys will receive comparatively smaller rewards. Your achievements will cancel out your mistakes, and we will not include that in your records and our case files. We hope that you will learn your lesson from this, and bear in mind that life is precious. Nobody can have another one. Thank you, Dean." Dalu and Linluo can heave a sigh of relief. It would become a serious blemish to their lives if their mistakes were recorded in Shrek Academy's case files. The difference between the inner courtyard's disciples and those from the outer courtyard was that the inner courtyard's disciples were bestowed with all kinds of resources, and they received the best mentors and teachings. The academy would naturally expect more from them in comparison to the outer courtyard students. This was the main reason why Yencheosh declared that they would receive fewer rewards than the reserve team, even though everybody was part of the team that won the championship. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.